eBayers, it's Suzanne A. Wells, and thanks for coming back for another video. I have a freebie for you today. This is one of the episodes of my Time Wasters series in my premium content library. Basically, in these videos, I show you things that you don't need to waste your time trying to sell because either they just don't get any traction on eBay, or at one time they were good sellers but they're not anymore. And these are common items that you may already have in your home that you don't need to spend the time listing and trying to sell, or common items that you might see out at thrift stores, garage sales, and estate sales. So enjoy this freebie and check out the premium content library and see what else I've got going on in there for you. So just remembering, an important part of time efficiency is knowing what not to spend your time selling. So whether you are downsizing decades worth of accumulation or just wanting to optimize your time at thrift stores and garage sales, knowing what to leave behind is just as important as knowing what to look for. So again, in this series, I will introduce you into some eBay time wasters. And these are backed up with fact, not opinion, so I will be showing you active and completed listings to give you the research behind this information. Always remember there are exceptions to the rule, but what I'm trying to do here is give you the general information to help you make decisions faster. There could always be a high value item in the mix, but again, these tips are generalities to help you downsize or source faster. So one that you may already know, I do have a video about this, so check out the link above if you want to see more about Beanie Babies. But there is a lot of hype online about Beanie Babies being worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. Very few can be rare or collectible. So we're going to look at actives and completeds in a minute so you can see which ones, but they're very, very specific ones, and they fall under the collectible guidelines of having to be in a case, or having to be in pristine or brand new condition, that kind of stuff. So more than likely you're probably not going to find these laying around boxed up in your kids' old toys or that kind of thing. You may, but again, it's all about time. Do you really want to spend the time looking through all of these to find the ones that might be valuable? Now, we'll also see that some lots do well, so you may want to lot them up together and sell several together in a batch. But generally speaking, overall, these really just aren't worth fooling with the way that the hype indicates they would be. So more than likely, don't fool with them. eBay shows 127,000 active listings, but only 20,000 sold with the keyword Beanie Baby in the title. So let's go look at some active listings. Okay, let's take a look at active listings for the keyword Beanie Baby, and these are just single ones. You can see there are some really super rare ones with extremely high prices, and I don't even believe that this is real. So I think that's a little ridiculous. If somebody was going to spend this much money on a collectible, I don't think they would do it through eBay. So we're not even going to count those. And I think these are just people that have no clue that, they're just buying into the hype that they're going to be able to sell their Beanie Baby for $500,000, and that's just not real. So let's go to another page where we are getting into the more realistic prices. Let's jump ahead here. Still a lot that are just ridiculously priced, and I honestly don't even know what's going on here. Why would somebody even try to do this? It just I'm just not buying into that. So you can see that there are over 126,000 results for Beanie Babies on eBay. So you've got quite a lot of competition on them. Now if we go look at the sold listings, you can see that there's only 20,500 sold listings and nothing even close to those $500,000 prices. So and even these that sell in the thousands, I'm just not sure that's even real. That could be money laundering, that could be an auction that ended and people didn't even pay for it. We don't know that money ever exchanged hands on these. So that's why I don't buy into the hype about this. So there are a few that can sell for a lot, and this is where you want to do your research to see, what it is and why. Some of these have misprints on the hang tags, or they've been authenticated, they're in the case. It's going to be unlikely that you're going to have any of these. Here's a lot that's sold for $299, but there's 390 of them in there. So they sold for less than $1 a piece, and can you imagine shipping that many? That would be a very big project. So, my advice on Beanie Babies is more than likely you're not going to have anything valuable. It's better just to donate them to a children's hospital, fire department, something like that, where they could just be given away to children. Item is electric typewriters, and this is very familiar to me. I remember learning how to type on something like this back in the 80s, and when I worked for the bank, this is the kind of typewriter we had. So the IBM Selectric. These are big and cumbersome and a pain to ship. So that's your main concern when selling anything, is how easy is it going to be to ship? Because even if you could get $100 for it, if it takes you 2 hours to pack it up, it's really not worth your time doing it. And these are very heavy, so you've got to factor that in as a way you're spending your time. Now the only one that goes for very much are the Smith Corona colored ones. And some of those aren't even electric, so we're going to take a look at those in just a minute in the completed listings. Now, also the ribbons can sell well, but the risk there is that they're going to be old, because typewriters haven't really been a thing since word processors came out in the early 90s and people started doing all this on the computer. So yes, there are people who still like a typewriter and need the ribbons for it. But if you find ribbons at estate sales, garage sales, auctions, wherever, they could be very old, dried out, disintegrated, and not work. And I have had this happen where, I found these great typewriter ribbons that could sell for a lot of money because the supply is very low, so the price is high, but then the person gets them and the ribbon is dried out, or they open the package and the whole thing's disintegrated because it's so old and it's been stored in an attic or wherever, and it got dried out. So kind of along the lines of printer ink, you just have to be careful because you don't know the condition of the item. If it's still sealed in the packaging, it could be too old to be any good. But very few of these are even on eBay. There was only 766 active and 599 sold. So that shows you that it's just not a whole lot of demand for these items. So let's go look at active listings. Okay, these are the active listings for electric typewriters. And you can see there's only 765 actives. So you've got some real dinosaurs here. They're IBM Selectric. That's the one that most people remember if you used a typewriter. And you can see these just don't sell for much, relatively speaking. Now, but again, this is just not something I would fool with, simply because it's a pain to ship and there's just not that desired. So if we go to look at the sold listings, 567 of them sold, and that's not a huge number. So you can see prices aren't super high. There's a few over $200, but mostly mostly under $200. And it seems like the colored ones are the ones that really bring in the money. So that might be an oddity, just something that someone puts in their office for, to display. They're not really even going to use it. So generally speaking, I wouldn't fool with typewriters. Always your decision, but just not something that I've had luck with over the years. I've sold a few of them, but they were manual, and they were the Smith Corona ones with the colors. So let me show you that real quick, just so you'll know. This is the one I'm talking about. And just FYI, antique is 100 years old. So this is actually not a correct keyword because it's not an antique. It's not 100 years old. But these are the portable typewriters that were not electric. Those are the ones that people collect. And this one's actually, the brand is called Royal, but the Smith Corona is the one that that you might see. Like here's a pink one that's Royal. So just very few of these that are worth anything. Okay, the next item that you might want to leave behind are Precious Moments figurines. If you're not familiar with these, this was a company that was started in 1978 as an American catalog company selling giftware. And Precious Moments, the people, the figures, are characterized by their very big heads and their very big eyes. And I remember I worked at Wachovia Bank in Charlotte starting in 1988, and there was a girl there, another teller, that was just obsessed with this stuff, and that's just all she talked about, her Precious Moments collection. And she had like everything with Precious Moments on it. And this was, she was in her mid-20s, so I was like, what is the big deal with these things? Why are these so great? And I personally never got into it, but some people just loved this stuff and just collected it and had, every time she would go to a wedding, she would buy a Precious Moments figurine as the wedding gift, with the couple's name engraved on it or whatever. And it was just a really big deal. Some people just loved this stuff. And they were sold in Hallmark stores and other gift stores. And they were very popular in the 80s and 90s. Now, these, again, are like record albums. There's a lot of them out there, and only a few are worth very much. And you'll see huge collections at estate sales, garage sales, people selling them on Facebook groups. I've gone into Goodwill and just seen where somebody has donated their entire collection, and there may be 30 or 40 of these. And I've looked through them, and I just have never come up with any that were worth anything. So I'm just speaking from my own time investment that there's a lot of them out there and very few are worth much. eBay shows 51,000 active items with the keywords Precious Moments, but only 17,000 sold. So while there are quite a few on eBay, they're just not selling through. So let's take a look at active listings. You can see there are 51,000 plus results for actives, and these are sorted by highest to lowest. You can see people are selling their entire collections, and these were a big deal back in the late 80s and 90s. I just remember this was, I just never understood the obsession with it, but that's okay. I don't have to. So like here's an entire collection, and this is the thing that is coming out of estate sales and people who collect stuff. Eventually it's got to go somewhere. Okay, let's take a look at sold listings. We've got 17,000 plus sold listings. Really, can you imagine shipping this collection? 73 pieces. Who would want to do that unless it was local pickup? But it's got $90 shipping, so I can't imagine taking the time to wrap all those up and ship them. But you've got a few that are valuable on their own. But like here's another collection, 141 of them. So generally speaking, you're just not going to find is it worth your time to sit at an estate sale and look through 150 of these to find one that's worth something? I say no, it's not. There's too many other things that are right there in front of you that people don't even know are worth anything. So generally speaking, precious moments is a no. All right, the next item you may not want to fool with is false-graph dinnerware, stoneware, china, whatever you want to call it. This again was popular in the 80s and 90s, maybe even going back to the 70s. My mom had several sets of this. She had this one here, the blue folk art, back in the 90s, and then there was another one, a brown one, that we had in the 80s. So she really liked this stuff. But then she came to live with me in 2003, right around the time I started selling on eBay, because she had hip surgery and she just needed some help. So she came and stayed with me after my divorce, and we lived together for about a year and a half. During that time, we decided it would be smart to start downsizing her stuff, because here I'm selling on eBay and doing well with it. She's got all this stuff. She's eventually knowing that she's going to move out. And she just doesn't want to take it all with her. So she's like, you're probably going to end up having to do this at some point in your life anyway. Let's go ahead and do this now. So I started selling her stuff, and false-graph was some of it. She had a lot of it. And even back then, it was not a great seller, and it was very heavy. So 4 of these dinner plates are very heavy to ship. And yes, you're going to pass the cost on to the buyer and do calculated shipping, but it's still effort and energy and time to pack it all up. So I will say that the larger pieces, like the vegetable bowls, the pitchers, or like the salt and pepper shakers, the creamers and sugars, the unique pieces can sometimes be worth enough to fool with. And it is saturated on eBay. There's a lot of it there, so it takes a long time to sell. So you may do better selling this type of stuff locally if you've got some of it. Sell it locally on Facebook groups, or local pickup, so that you don't have to ship it, because it really is heavy. eBay shows 67,000 plus active and only 12,000 sold with the keyword false-graph. So let's take a look at active listings. Okay, here's false-graph. We've got 68,000 plus active listings with the keyword false-graph in the title. So that is a lot of competition, and you can see people are selling entire sets. Again, that is a shipping nightmare. Yeah, this is the one we had in the 80s, Village, I think it was called. So some of these pieces can be worth something. So like the salt and pepper shakers, maybe the canisters, the pitchers, the cookie jar, those types of things you might be able to get a decent price for. But generally speaking, just the plates and the mugs and the bowls are not going to be worth much on their own. So let's take a look at completed listings. You can see what. Okay, and again we've got a set here. I wonder if that was local pickup only. I'm just curious to see, because 66 pieces of this very heavy false-graph would just be unbelievable to ship. So they've got $200 shipping here, and I don't see where it doesn't say local pickup. So it must have sold, and somebody paid that much for shipping. So obviously it can happen. Let's take a look at the used listings. Let's see, not specified, 11,000. So apparently people are not choosing whether it's new or used. But when you have 50 some odd thousand, or what was it, 68,000 actives and only 12,000 sold through in the last 90 days, that tells me it's just not highly desired. Let's just do a quick look at the salt and pepper I do like to pick those up sometimes because they're so small and easy. So like here we've got false graph folk art with the basket weave. Those sold for 60 bucks, and then we've got another set that went for 50, 39, 38. So you could make a little enough on the salt and peppers, or maybe the butter dish, something like that. But generally speaking, the huge sets of false graph, I would definitely pass on that because it's just not profitable and they're just not selling through. Okay, the last item is punch bowl sets. And you may, if you're older, have one or more of these around simply because everybody had one, because we used to entertain in the baby showers or Christmas parties or bridal showers or family gatherings, whatever, there was always a punch bowl. But that's kind of gone away, and now we have just like coolers full of water bottles and stuff like that. And I remember getting these as a giveaway either at a bank or a furniture store when you opened a new account or made a major purchase. Car dealerships would give them away. So they were like the cheap plastic ones, the giveaways, but I had one of those. This is another shipping nightmare because you've got to wrap up all these little individual cups along with the big bowl. So that is going to take some time to do. There are very few of these on eBay. The ones that are worth anything are the very fine crystal, like the Baccarat or the Waterford, or the sterling silver. Now, I will say that my sister has our family punch bowl that was, it's sterling silver. It's a very nice and very valuable piece. And, at family gatherings, she does use that. But it's just not something people buy anymore. So if we look at active listings, there are 905 active, but only 166 sold. So let's go look at active listings. 905 actives, and the ones that are really valuable are going to be your fine crystal or sterling. So if you've got one of these in your house, it may be worth a shot. Just remember, shipping this is going to be a task. And because it's fragile, you might want to put extra insurance on it too, because this stuff could break the way the post office handles things. That's why I just don't sell many breakables, because I don't want to take that risk. I'm not worried about getting my money back. I just don't want a disappointed customer, and I don't want them to receive things broken, because when that happens, they get emotional, they leave you bad feedback, and I just don't want that whole situation. So that's why I stay away from really fragile stuff, and this would definitely be that. So you can see here, there's different finer crystal vintage ones, like depression glass, that kind of stuff that you could sell for a decent price. But again, I would suggest you do it locally on a Facebook group or do local pickup, because this is going to be a shipping nightmare. And let's look at the sold listings. And we've got 165 that sold through. So Jeanette Shell Pink Punch Bowl Set Feather Pattern. That looks very vintagey. Yep, there's a few of those on there. But they're just selling for barely over $100. So it may just be better to keep it and use it for family events, or do local pickup, because the sell-through rate is just not there, and this item is just not highly desired anymore. That wraps up this edition, and this is an ongoing series, so look for this to look for the next episode coming in future months. And as always, feel free to request research on specific niches, items, or topics, because that's why you're in this group, is to request so that I can help you with your business. So as always, feel free to contact me with any questions. You get the the unlimited email support. So I'm here for you. Thanks for watching. Have a great week on eBay. Bye.